at the tangent function, can this have an inverse function? And the answer is yes, but again, we're going to have to restrict that domain. So normally we'd say, like, so if the tangent of pi over 4 equals 1, we could rewrite this using tan inverse of the tan inverse of 1. The angle that gives us that is pi over 4. So for the tan inverse, we restrict that domain to being between negative pi and pi, but that range, you can only use those angles as your outputs. So use a calculator to find the tangent of 13 pi over 7 rounded to 2 decimal places. So again, this is in terms of radians. So when you plug this into your calculator, and I really recommend you pause the video and actually do it just so that you get practice of inputting values into either Desmos or into your regular calculator, and you'll get negative 0.48. So if I were to rewrite this using inverse function language, the tan inverse of negative 0.48 equals 13 pi over 7. So again, it's just reversing that process. So if we had to evaluate the tangent inverse of root 3, so we said that the tan inverse was restricted between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So it's the same restrictions as the sine inverse function has. So where does the tangent equal root 3? Well, the tangent equals root 3 when we are at pi over 3. So it's going to be that pi over 3. Evaluate tan inverse of negative 1. So tan inverse of negative 1 is going to happen right here when you divide those two together. So that's at 7 pi over 4. But again, that's not in that range. We said the range is between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So I have to rewrite 7 pi over 4 as an angle in that restrictions. So I could rewrite that as negative pi over 4. And this is, again, if you're wondering how the heck did I get pi over 3 really fast, this is, again, when having that table that I taught you guys back all the way on the first day. We've got 0, pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, and pi over 2. So we learned this is 0, 1/2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2, and 1. And then this is the opposite of that. So 1, root 3 over 2, root 2 over 2, 1/2, and 0. And then the tangent is when you divide those two. So we get that, 1, root 3, and then undefined. So tan inverse of root 3, so the tangent is root 3 at pi over 3. Okay, so tangent is 1 at pi over 4, so it's going to be negative 1 down here at negative pi over 4.